Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome to Duerrisms, the podcast, presented as ever by our good friends at Advanced Physical Therapy. Zach Richardson alongside. We apologize for the lack of a podcast last week. It was kind of crazy. Not that it's not crazy around here now, but at least we found 15 minutes to get together to be in the same place today to get this done. And we're doing this in advance of week 7, which gets an early start this week. It is a huge Thursday because on one hand, we've got Quincy High Q&D Soccer, round 2 of the Soccer Civil War. And we also have the renewal tonight of the rivalry that is Jacksonville Rout versus Concord Triopia, the WIVC Norse original rivalry, back on its unique Thursday night date. We don't get a lot of Thursday night football. Just as a football guy, Zach, having that chance to kind of have your own date, to have all eyes on you, to be the focal point of all the football for that one specific night, that's really kind of a cool deal, isn't it?
It really is. You know, you're so used to playing on Fridays just like everybody else, but you know, you kind of get that, NFL feel. You got a Thursday night game, it's the primetime game, the big game of the week, and to have it be renewed with these two teams coming back together and doing that, it's got to feel great for the guys, and to play on a Thursday night and get the week. It gives you a little more rest going into week 8, but it's got to be fun to be able to play on a Thursday night like this.
Both those two teams are in danger of missing the playoffs, so this is going to feel a little bit like a playoff game. Rout hasn't been able to keep anybody healthy this year. I think they were down to 23, 22 healthy players as of last week, and Triopia has just been snake bitten at every turn, so it's kind of nice for them to have their own unique spotlight. And speaking of spotlight, we're here in week 7, and we don't often do this, but we're talking about your Louisiana Bulldogs who've won 3 straight games. You got to go home last week, and we didn't get a chance to do much after the show and talk about it. But are you sensing something different? Is there a corner been turned for your Louisiana Bulldogs?
The culture's changed. Greg Pitcher's come in there, and it's all about discipline, And I not to say that hasn't been the goal all along, but you can really see it, and that's he's big on that. It doesn't matter, if you have a big play, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're not right, even though you may have scored a touchdown. But the culture is changing a lot there, and you can see the confidence level go up, and the guys are having fun. We're doing things that we haven't done in the past, and I got to the game and saw 42 points in the first quarter. And it was MMA, but to score 42 points in the first quarter for Louisiana, we haven't done that in years, and to walk in, it kind of surprised me, and I was like, I think I missed all the action right there, but I got to see a few more scores from them, and I think that this is a starting point for them to turn that corner in the coming years and keep building off of the 3 wins they have now.
We've seen what the return game has done for Mark Twain early on with Lakota Preston. Now we're seeing it with Quincy Hutt, who had a kickoff return and a punt return as part of that big, gigantic avalanche of scoring. That makes a difference when you can get off in the special teams game a little bit.
It does, and a guy like Quincy, who's got that track speed, a great track athlete, to see him on the football field, Louisiana's getting the athletes back out there, not just getting your guys that are out there, your best athletes not sitting out, but you have your guys on the football field, and for a guy like him to be back there returning kicks and be explosive to kind of give him a burst of energy early in the game, I think it's huge for the Bulldogs, and I think that really sparked things up last week against MMA and kind of got things rolling for them.
I don't want to burst your bubble because this was fun. We got to talk about Louisiana, but they play Bowling Green this week. And Bowling Green might have looked to this point like the best team in our area in terms of being the cleanest so far to their undefeated start, even more so than maybe Hannibal. Do your Bulldogs even have a prayer against Bowling Green this week?
I think at this point, going into the game, they know they're going as David versus Goliath here, and I think the goal for Louisiana now is to put up a fight. They know Bowling Green's a good football team. They know it's going to be tough. Make it competitive, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough the way this Bowling Green team's been playing all year long, and they just look so dominant. And I haven't seen a team test them to the point where it's coming down to late game decisions and late playmaking in the game that's deciding this. They're just out there and just rolling over people. So it's going to be a challenge for them, and I think they're just hoping to make it, compete a little bit and put up a fight.
You saw Bowling Green in person, which is the reason you missed all of those early Louisiana touchdowns. Bowling Green is averaging 6.6 points against, which is as good as anybody in our area to this point. They went the first couple of weeks without their first defense surrendering a touchdown. Are they legitimately that good defensively?
Yeah, that defense is great. I mean, we saw the play at Charlie Bowen just stripping the ball and taking it for the score. It just plays like that. You know, they're all ready to hit, flying to the ball. They're trying to get the ball back. They understand the importance of, you know, the turnovers and putting pressure on them. They never ease up either. You know, it's you know, they'll have a couple big plays. They don't give up that big play on 3rd and long. They keep bringing it at you. And as an offensive team, that gets tiring. It wears you out. And you can see that. You see teams start to break down and fall apart, and the Bowling or the Bobcats just keep on rolling. And Joe Chin's got them. I mentioned it before, looking like, you know, a Clarence Cannon defense that you see year in and year out, and it's good to see that in Bowling Green now.
I think more than that, though, we knew they were going to be good against the run because of all the guys that were back, and, you know, you have those linebackers like you talked about, a Gunnar Bryant, a Charlie Bowen. Charlie Bowen's having an amazing year, by the way, and I don't think that's been amplified enough. But the thing that really surprised me, North Callaway was going to come in with the idea of throwing the football. The secondary was locked down. They've gotten very good at taking the oxygen out of the passing game as well.
And they have, and I think, you know, they've done a great job, and it all starts with that defensive line up front, putting pressure on the quarterback, not giving a lot of time to.
They're bringing
take a look at
6
things.
a lot, yes.
Yeah, and you know, and to have that pressure, and then have the guys in the secondary to be able to make plays and stop those big shots down the field. That's just the icing on top of the cake, and they're solid back there. North Callaway, they're playing. I think early on they kind of scrambled around, didn't know exactly what they were
Well, you're
gonna
down
do at this
22-0 before you could blink. So, yeah, it certainly helped that. And Dylan Dalton laying the shoulder on people as a quarterback has been impressive as well. Bowling Green, Louisiana's fun. The biggest game, though, in Northeast Missouri this week takes place at the 8-man level where, you know, we finally get that test for North Shelby against the #1 team in the state, Stanberry. And I got a chance to look at some video. Got some friends around the state who cover 8-man football like we do. Stanberry's legit. I mean, they've got a pair of twins, one at quarterback and one who runs at wide receiver, who look like they would be comfortable in the starting lineup at Hannibal. I mean, they're big, they're physical as well, all across the board. This is that moment we've been waiting for. And if you're North Shelby, we've talked so much about the potential of that defense. You know, David Stuckey's team has come up and basically not really even been pushed much to this point. They're going to get pushed this week. What kind of moment is this? Is this a measuring stick moment? If North Shelby does lose, do we write them off? Or where are we on North Shelby? This coming off this week, because this is actually a sneak peek to where they want to be at the end of this season.
You know, I think if they can get a win this week, that's a huge statement to say, you know, we are we're for real. You know, we're a good football team. We're as good as people thought we were. You know, and if they happen to fall short this week, it's a very good Stanberry team. So, you know, it's all about, you know, how the game plays out. You know, if I'm sure they're going to be in this ball game. It's going to be a tough one. But just to show they can compete against one of the top 8-man teams in the state, that's going to be a huge statement for them.
Here's the fun thing about North Shelby last week: 3 pick-6 interceptions last week. So if you're going to go to the air on them, you know they're really good at the back. And I mean, you know, as good a quarterback as, you know, Cale Stoneburner is, he's better as a defensive back, and he may be even better as a return guy. But you take your life into your hands when you test that North Shelby secondary. I think the key for North Shelby is to tackle cleanly, get some pressure on the quarterback, who's the most athletic player on the field, other than maybe his brother at wide receiver. There are 2 of them. It's like the old social network Winklevi, you know, joke. There are 2 of those guys you got to contend with, so that's really tough. I want to take you back to the Clarence Cannon Conference because there's a couple of interesting things happening there this week. First of all, if you take your amnesia and you forget what happened to Palmyra in week 2, Palmyra's played some really good football of late. They got all their pieces back, and, you know, I know Clark County's struggling, but outside of maybe Bowling Green, that Palmyra defense looks to be about as good as anybody right now. Where's your confidence on Palmyra the rest of the way? Are they a team that has a chance to kind of get all this back going in time for the Class 2 districts?
I think they really are. I mean, I don't think we saw the real Palmyra week 1 or week 2.
We may not have seen them until last week.
And you know, and they really, the way they played last week, it was a different ball club. I mean, you've seen them get better week in and week out, and I think that I think they have a chance to get everything back here and make a bit of a run, even Clarence Cannon and in districts.
We took for granted the fact that, hey, we talked a lot about Colin Arch as a quarterback because we saw him throw in practice, but he hadn't been a starting quarterback. So the feel wasn't there like it was last week when he had a hand in 6 touchdowns last week. He makes a difference, and Hayes Miller is starting to look like All-State Hayes Miller again. So those two things on the offense also add a lot. For Palmyra, which is at Highland this week, which brings us to, hey, didn't show up for Centralia. Yeah. And people are now starting to talk, hey, and I may be the most guilty of this, did we all overvalue Highland coming into this season? This is a real statement moment, for that Highland Cougar Ball Club, because we can talk all we want about athletes, but if you're going to get housed 41-6 by Centralia, maybe you don't belong in the conversation. How big a week is this for Dave DeGarmo, and how big a week is this for the Highland Cougars to kind of get some of that pride back against Palmyra at home?
They have, this is a huge week for them. They have to come back and bounce back from a huge loss, and I think that if they can come back and win this, it shows, we are a good football team. We had an off week, and everybody has their off weeks, but and it may stop some of the questioning of, did we overhype them a little bit? But it's a huge week for them to come out and win at home against a good Palmyra team, which is another game that, you're not playing you're playing a good football team in Palmyra. So to come out with a win this week and a bounce back after a tough loss at Centralia, it'll be huge for them.
Jump across the river, kind of a paradigm shifting moment, because this is the first time in a long time that I think we've said maybe right now the hottest team in the Gem City is Quincy University. We've not talked about that before. Quincy Notre Dame, Quincy High School both struggling. Quincy High School, in fact, in danger of missing the playoffs if they lose to Geneseo. Essentially, I think they have to win out to have a shot, although there's some talk in the IHSA that a couple of 4-win teams are going to get in. You don't want to be in that position. And Quincy Notre Dame's offense has evaporated over the last 10 quarters. And, they're at home against, I believe it's Lutheran St. Charles this week, making sure it's Lutheran St. Peter's. I always do that. Lutheran St. Peter's this week, who's 4-2 coming in. If you're an offense that's sputtered for 10 quarters and you probably have 2 very winnable games at the end of the season, how important is it for Jack Cornell's team to find some continuity this week, Zach?
They have to, one, to get into the playoffs, to keep yourself in that playoff talk, and 2, you want to be playing your best football once this playoffs come around the corner, and whether it be simplify it down, whatever you have to do to figure it out on the offensive side to get the confidence back up and get things going. Have to do that, because you never want to be in a situation where your offense isn't putting points on the board and not moving the ball down the field when it matters the most.
We're going to get some clarity in the WIVC North finally this week. Beardstown at Central. I think one loss is probably going to be what it takes. Beardstown got kind of housed last week defensively by a Unity Payson team that's still in the equation if they can win out with just 2 losses at this point. 13-0. You've seen that Unity Payson defense. They're really good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. It's fun to watch them play. It's watching them play. You're thinking small school football, but these guys are out here, and it's fun to watch.
Riker Triplett could play for anybody. He's that good on the edge, and that defense has been very, very good. And I think you could probably make the same argument about Brian Deeker at linebacker. The 2 of those guys are guys who would be transformational players regardless of whatever your school level is. The other side of that equation is you've got Central at Beardstown, which Central's playing really well. So this is a game where the winner of that game is probably going to take some controlling interest in this. Other than that slip up against Brown County, Central has looked every bit their state ranking. They've looked every bit good. They're just a team you don't know who they are week to week, which is weird with a Brad Dixon team. And then you've got Brown County, obviously, going to Unity Payson, so that's an interesting game. And we saw Unity Payson wing the ball all over the field with Tate Fullerton last week. I think he was like 5 of 7 passing for over 127 yards and 4 touchdowns, which was the way they beat Route on Saturday. So really interesting games in the WIVC North. The Prairie Land was not a good week last week. Rushville Industry obviously got housed at Farmington. I guess our apologies to Illini West and to Macomb previously, because we were pretty critical of them. I guess Farmington really is that good. Rushville Industry doesn't even get to play this week because South Fulton's already got a bye. Really tough week. I believe Knoxville's at Illini West, so some really tough games there in Illinois as well, but stuff that we'll have on radar for you. You're going to Iowa this week for the first time to see undefeated Fort Madison and a chance to experience Landis Williams, who I think right now is probably, if you had to rank quarterbacks in this area, based on what he's done, the most important piece in our area in terms of, I think he's had a hand in 22 touchdowns. He's completed 75% of his passes. He probably has as many total yards as anybody not named Aeneas Williams at this point, and maybe more. Fort Madison has reached this critical juncture in terms of who they are, and they've thrown the ball over the field. They haven't run the ball consistency until last week with Jacob McGowan going for 195. How excited are you to see Landis Williams and kind of finally get a sense of what Derek Doherty has done? Because, for a long time, Fort Madison was kind of the Louisiana or the Highland of Southeast Iowa. Now they're state ranked, they're undefeated, get past this week against a one-win Liberty team that is very good defensively, and then you're into North Scott and Burlington, the two games that matter most that could finally make you officially a playoff team for the first time. I don't want to quibble about what last year was, but obviously, how excited are you to go see the Hounds?
I'm really excited to see them. I never had a chance to do it over in Kirksville going up north, but, excited to go see them. You see, guys like Tate Fullerton that are, great quarterbacks, and to see what he does on the field and see Derek Doherty and what that team is. You call it the football dojo over there.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to go see that.
Yeah, it is fun, and Landis Williams is a guy who can beat you with his arm, with his feet, and in comparison, I think Tate Fullerton is a guy who's a lot like that as well. We've got a lot of really good quarterbacks. You saw one in Dylan Dalton last week. The quarterback game is fun, but again, if you're looking at the heart and genesis of a 6-0 team, Landis Williams is about 80% of their offense at this point, which is insane. His brother Kane has been really good at wide receiver. They've done a lot of really nice things, and to see them kind of cresting back towards that, if they can put the run game together, and I thought they probably blocked as well last week as they have all season. A lot of nice things going on at Fort Madison, so that is a huge game for us on our radar as well. Not a lot of college football this Saturday. Our foci, I should say, will be on state golf because we've got a lot of people compete, and I know you got a chance to watch Blake Arnold a little. He comes up with a career round at Chamblee in the sectional and fires a 70 even par round. He goes to Prairie Vista with plenty of momentum. That should be an awful lot of fun. I know Tristan Mast is over there from West Central as well. Gabriel Gold from Quincy High School qualifies in a playoff, so nice to see him as an underclassman getting the taste of it. But the big storylines for us, the Quincy High girls headed over for the first time since 1983 as a team. Macomb, which has a legitimate chance to win it all this weekend on the boys' side. And the Quincy Notre Dame girls, who were at the beginning of this season not really very good. And then it was, they've got Hanukkah Nuffman, but who else? I tell you what, 2 through 6, those girls have really, all of them stepped up. I got a chance to watch those girls a little bit over in Auburn this week, and particularly with Blair Eftink stepping her game up as well at 2, that was big. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed for a lot of state championships and a lot of state trophies and medals coming by, but this is certainly a golf weekend for us, and you can't ask for more than that. Hey, as always, we appreciate your patronage, and always we appreciate the patronage of our friends at Advanced Physical Therapy for taking part and allowing us to do this podcast. I promise you, we will be back here next week because the schedule, at least for a little bit, is going to let up enough to allow us to do that. But these are insane days in the Tri-States. Our heads are spinning a little bit, but that's the best kind of spinning because it's back to normal. And again, thank you all for joining us for the podcast.